Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. My report is all about writing the mythology. So, continuation lang po ito ng report ni Miss Dipala. So, my topics to discuss is how to select research locally, how to select research participants, what is sampling techniques, and what is Sloven's formula. So, how to select research locally. Research locally discusses the place or setting of the study. It describes in a brief the place where the study is conducted. Only important features which have the bearing of the present study are included, and it shows the target population. So, dito daw po sa research locally, ito daw po yung setting of the study. So, dito makikita natin kung saan yung lugar na pagkakandakan ng study. So, dito rin natin makikita yung ating magiging target population. Example is, the study was conducted at Philippine University. This place was selected or knowing the efficiency of the study of utilization of soft drink Sprite as an edible paste. The study was being implemented on the student of PCU UHSM from grade 7 to 4th year level. This study was tested and effectiveness of the paste with Sprite as its main component. The research study was implemented inside the premise of Philippine University. The room was clean, well ventilated, air-conditioned, and had enough chairs for every student who participated with activity. So dito makikita natin kung saan niya kinonduct yung kanyang study, which is Philippine University. And then makikita natin dito yung kanyang target population, which is grade 7 to 4th year level. So we have types of research locally. Laboratory studies and field study. Laboratory studies designed to be more highly controlled in relation to both the environment in which the study is conducted and the control of extraneous and intervening variables. And field study is simply means they occur somewhere other than in controlled laboratory setting. They occur in natural setting and use a variety of methods such as field experiment, participant observation in village or hospital wards, interview in home or office, questionnaires sent to the research subject, and anything at all that does not occur in controlled laboratory setting. So, dito sa laboratory setting and field study, ang differences nila is, yung laboratory study is controlled experiment, and yung field study is a real-world study or not controlled. Dito sa laboratory studies, will equipped, so dito naman sa field studies, natural way lang siya. So, dito sa field studies, kapag kumukuha tayo ng data, is via face-to-face, interview, survey, or direct observation. So, next is how to select research participants. Selecting participants or respondent in type of sample has many ways to consider depending on how you use the information. So, sa research, tinatawag daw po itong sampling, which is the method or process of selecting respondents or people to answer the question meant to yield data for a research study. So we have two ways to selecting participants, which is the probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling, an equal chance of participation in the sampling or selection process is given to every member. It is also known as random sampling. So dito sa probability sampling, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. It involves principles, randomization, or chance. So dito sa probability sampling, may process tayong ginagamit para lahat ng population ay may chance na maging part ng ating study. So dito din sa probability sampling, unbiased dito kasi walang control sa researcher sa pagpili ng kanyang magiging respondents. So dito naman sa non-probability sampling, this regards random selection of the subject that the subject are chosen based on their availability or the purpose of the study. And it is also known as non-random sampling. So dito naman sa non-probability sampling, it is opposite of probability sampling. It is a less chance of obtaining representative of sample. So next is sampling techniques. What is sampling techniques? It is a method that allows researchers to infer information about the population based on the result from a subset of the population without having to investigate every individual. So dito sa sampling techniques, we are talking about the method ng pagkuha ng sample sa ating populations. So we have two types of sampling techniques. Yun na nga yung probability sampling or random sampling, non-probability sampling or non-random sampling. So, dito muna tayo sa types of probability sampling. So, ano nga ba ulit yung probability sampling? So, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. So, meron tayong 4 types of probability sampling. Number 1 is simple random sampling, 2 systematic sampling, 3 stratified sampling, and last is cluster sampling. So, let's first discuss simple random sampling. In a simple random sample, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. It is choosing of respondent from a population. So dito makikita natin sa picture na walang pattern na involved sa pagkuha ng respondents. To conduct this type of sampling, you can use tools like random number generators or other techniques that are based entirely on chance. So, dito ginagamit na po yung random number generators or tinatawag din itong simple random sampling na fishbowl method, which is yung binubunot yung pangalan ng magiging respondents. So, example is, you want to select a simple random sample of 100 students of LGMC. You assign a number to every student in the school from 1 to 1,000 and use a random number generator to select 100 numbers. So, next is number 2, systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is similar to simple random sampling, but it is usually slightly easier to conduct. Every member of the population is listed with a number, but instead of randomly generating numbers, individuals are chosen at regular intervals. So, dito sa systematic sampling, medyo kahawig siya ni simple random sampling. Kasi, dito sa systematic sampling, it is started with random style. So, dito, makikita nyo sa picture, may pattern tayong involved. Dito sa systematic sampling, may pattern tayong involved. Doon naman sa simple random sampling, walang pattern na involved. So, example is, your target population are all the grade 7 student in LGMC. So, you need to do is all grade 7 student in LGMC are listed in alphabetical order. From the first 10 numbers, you randomly select a starting point. So, ang halimbawang number dito is number 6. From number 6 onwards, every 10 person on the list selected is 6, 16, 26, 36, and so on. Until makuha mo na yung target na 100 respondents. So, next natin is number 3, stratified sampling. Stratified sampling involves dividing the population into subpopulation that may differ in important ways. It allows you draw more precise conclusion by ensuring that every subgroup is properly represented in the sample. To use this sampling method, you divide the population into subgroups. It is called strata based on the relevant characteristics sample, gender, age, range, income, bracket, job role. So, dito sa stratified sampling, hinahati natin ang ating population according to their strata or their groups. So, makikita natin dito sa picture na may 4 na groups. So, dito sa pagpili ng ating respondents is according to the groups. So, ang kagandahan dito sa stratified sampling, pwede tayong equal representation and proportional presentation. So, example is, the company has an 800 female employees and 200 male employees. You want to ensure that the sample reflects the gender balance of the company. So, you sort the population into 2 strata based on their gender, which is women and men. Then, you use random sampling on each group, selecting 80 women and 20 men, which gives you a representative sample of 100 people. So last is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling also involves dividing the population into subgroups, but each subgroup should have similar characteristics to the whole sample. Instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly select entire subgroup. So, dito sa cluster sampling, hinahati din natin ang ating population into groups. So, makikita nyo dito sa picture, ang pagkuha ng respondents ay according to the groups. Example is, the company has offices in 10 cities across the country, all with roughly the same number of employees and similar rules. You don't have the capacity to travel to every offices to select your data, so you use random sampling to select 3 offices. These are your cluster. So, dito sa cluster sampling, pwede daw itong gamitin dun sa malalaking population, na katulad nga nito sa ating example. And ang advantages nitong cluster sampling, hindi na magpapalipat-lipat sa researcher. Doon na siya magpo-focus dun sa nakuha niyang cluster o dun sa isang geographical location. So, ulitin ko lang po, nalimutan ko sabihin kanina. So, dito sa ating 1 and 2 types of probability sampling, ito yung ginagamit natin sa maliit na population lang. And then, dun sa 3 and 4, dito, ginagamit na natin ito dun sa malalaking population. So, remember, dun sa 4 types method na sinabi ko kanina, may probability na involved or chance na involved. So, dun sa next types of sampling technique, we're not talking about probability or chance na involved. Next is types of non-probability sampling. So, ano nga ba ulit yung non-probability sampling? Remember that every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. So, kung sa probability sampling, walang control at umaasa na lang sa chance sa pagpili ng sample sa researcher, dito naman sa non-probability sampling, mas merong hawak or mas controlled ni researcher ang pagpili ng kanyang respondents. So, dumako naman tayo sa types of non-probability sampling. So, we have 4 types. Number 1 is convenience sampling, 2. Voluntary response sampling. 3. Purposive sampling. And last is novel sampling. So let us first discuss the convenience sampling. A convenience sample simply include the individuals who happen to be most accessible to the researcher, selecting a sample based on the availability of the member and the proximity to the researcher. So, dito daw sa convenience sampling, pumipili tayo ng sample based on the availability ng member at proximity ng researcher. So, dito, kung sino yung respondent na malapit or yung respondent na available or yung respondent na mas madaling lapitan ng ating researcher, yun na yung magiging respondent niya sa kanyang study. So, makikita dito natin sa picture, si researcher, siya yung nasa gitna, and then yung kanyang respondents na nakuha ay yung mas malapit sa kanya. Dito sa convenience sampling, tinatawag din itong accidental opportunity or grab sampling. Accidental kasi kung nagkataong nandun ka sa lugar na yun sa oras na ginagawa yung study, then pwede kang maging part ng study ni researcher. Kung sino yung nandun or available, pwede silang maging respondent ni researcher. So, itong convenience sampling na to, ginagamit to kapag yung researcher ay limited na ang time and resources. And then kaya siya non-probability sampling kasi wala namang involved na pagbunot or walang chance na involved dito sa convenient sampling. So, next is number 2, voluntary response sampling. Similar to a convenient sample or voluntary response sample is mainly based on ease of access. Instead of the researcher choosing participants directly contacting them, people volunteer themselves, example by responding to a public online survey. Voluntary response samples are always at least somewhat biased, as some people will inherently be more likely to volunteer than others. So dito, from the words volunteer, hindi na si researcher maghahanap ng kanyang respondents kasi magbo-volunteer na yung respondents para maging part ng kanyang study. So, makikita dito sa picture na kahit malayo ka, kahit malapit ka, pwede kang maging part ng study. Depende na lang sa iyo kung gusto mong maging part ng kanyang study. So, example, you send out the survey to all students at your university, and a lot of students decide to complete it. This can certainly give you some insight into the topic, but the people who responded are more likely to be those who have strong opinion about the student support service, so you can be sure that their opinion are representative of all students. So next is number 3, purposive sampling. This type of sampling is also known as judgment sampling. Involve the researcher using their expertise to select a sample that is most useful to the purpose of the research. So, from the word purpose, yung sample ay chosen based on the goals of the study. Dito, sa purposive sampling, mas may control si researcher sa pagpili ng kanyang respondents. Pwedeng mapili yung ating respondent based on their knowledge, expertise, doon sa study nilang ginagawa. When it comes naman sa education, syempre, pipiliin natin yung respondent na meron ng knowledge or experience sa field like principal, division supervisor or division superintendent. Yun yung mga taong may mahaba ng experience pagdating sa field of studies. So dito sa purposive sampling, kaya naman siya naging non-probability kasi there are people na merong knowledge pero may chance na hindi sila pwede o hindi sila available mapasama sa study ni researcher. So saka dito sa purposive sampling, napaka-specific nito kaya limited lang yung nagiging part ng study. So, example natin dito sa purposive sampling is, you want to know more about the opinions and experiences of disabled student at your university. So, you purposefully select a number of students with different support needs in order to gather a varied range of data on their experience with student service. So, next is the snowball sampling. If the population is hard to access, snowball sampling can be used to recruit participants via other participants. The number of people who have access to snowballs are as you get in the contact with more people. Yung konsepto kasi nitong snowball sampling, imagine nyo na lang guys ha. So meron tayong small snowball at the top of the mountain. So so we have a small snowball at the top of the mountain. Kapag nag-slide siya pababa, syempre palaki siya ng palaki, 'di ba? Kasi nakakakuha siya ng snow sa surface nung mountain. Kaya habang bumababa siya, palaki siya ng palaki. Kagaya nitong nasa picture, nakakuha si researcher ng isang participants. Yun na yung gray. And then, yung isang participants na yun ay nakakuha ng 2 participants, which is yung green and blue. And then, nakakuha sila ng tig-3 participants para siyang triangle process. So, paano nangyayari to? Paano magre-recruit yung participants ni researcher? So, dito, gumagamit ng motivation si researcher, pero kalimitan is all about prizes like raffles. So, dito kasi sa snowball sampling, ito kasing method na ito is less time and less effort para makakuha ng participants. Pero syempre may kapalit na binibigay si researcher like resources. So next is, what is Sloven's formula? Sloven's formula is used to calculate the sample size in the given population and a margin of error. Whereas sample size is symbolized in small letter n and total population is capital letter N and the margin of error is E, which is our formula is n is equals to capital letter N all over 1 plus n E squared. So we have example here. Number 1, compute the sample size given a total population of 1,000 in a margin of error of 5%. So, ang atin pong given value is, ang total population po natin is 1,000 and ang ating margin of error po is 5% or 0.05 in decimal. So, let us solve for n. So, we have solution here. So, isa-substitute lang po natin yung ating given values dun sa ating Sloven's formula, which is magiging n is equals to 1,000 over 1 plus 1,000 times 0.05 squared. So, ang atin po munang kukumputin is yung ating nasa denominator, which is yung nasa loob ng parentheses. So, ang square root po ng 0.05 is 0.0025. Kaya magiging 1,000 over 1 plus 1,000 times 0.0025. So, next is yung nasa ating denominator pa rin, which is yung nasa loob ng parenthesis, yung atin pong 0.0025 at yung ating 1,000. So, 1,000 times 0.0220 1,000 times 0.0025. Ang magiging sagot po natin is positive 2.5. So, ang magiging step na po natin ay 1,000 over 1 plus 2.5. Pagpaplasin po natin yung ating nasa denominator, which is 1 plus 2.5. Ang magiging sagot po is 1,000. Ang magiging sagot po is 3.5. So, last step na po natin is 1,000 divide 3.5. So, ang ating sample size is 285.71. So, ira-round up po natin siya, kaya magiging 286 po. Kasi, ira-round up po natin kasi wala naman pong 0.71 na tao. Kaya po, ang magiging sagot po is 286. So, let's move to our next problem, which is example number 2. A student wants to conduct a research in his school. If the school has a total number of students of 4,800, solve for the sample size needed using 5% margin of error. So, isusulat po natin yung ating given values, which is ang ating total population is 4,800 and our margin of error is 0.05 and decimals. So, na ito po yung ating solutions. Same process po. So, ang atin pong magiging sagot is, or magiging sample size is 369.23. So, in math po, hindi po natin yan pwedeng i-round off kasi po mas mababa siya sa 5. So, dito po sa Stoven formula, hindi po tayo pwedeng mag-round down. Kasi, yun na po yung kailangan nating minimum para sa ating study. Kaya po, ang magiging sagot po dito is 370. So, yun lamang po. I hope po may naintindihan po kayo sa aking presentation. Thanks for listening and watching.